Hello everybody and welcome to Season 3 of Kozibear's Cooking, Part 2 specifically of Season 3. I decided to take a quick week-long break to help divide up the season and give myself more time to do me things, and let me tell you, it was well worth it. Last weekend I actually went ahead and managed to complete Pokemon Legends Arceus because of the break. Today we are going to be making a very special, tasty, desserty, sweet little creation called Toilet Toad's Wild Pie. But before we get into that, a reminder as always that if you're not currently doing so already, you can catch the show live every Sunday at 4 p.m. EST, like you're probably doing so now, as well as give back to the channel either by donating, following me, or subscribing. Doing so will earn you my eternal gratitude, and of course, earn you a few prize wheel spins from the prize wheel of causality. For whatever reason, when I get to that one last part at the end there, I kind of trip up in my brain a little bit. It's okay. Let's get into it. Okay. I want to say it was at the beginning of 2020. Kind of Funny had a podcast in which they birthed the idea of the toilet toad. I think it was on their review of Man of Steel, the 2013 Zack Snyder movie about Superman. I don't really know how it came together, but nevertheless, toilet toads became a thing in Kind of Funny. So much so that later on that very year, I really got into using Core, the video game software application, whatever you want to call it. And I decided, you know what? As part of this collaboration that Kind of Funny is hosting with Core, where they want people to make a bunch of Kind of Funny inspired games, I'm going to make a horde-based third-person shooter in vague terms, where you are trying to capture various locations while being pursued by the toilet toads. Let me show you a quick little video of what this video game looked like.
We're gonna win.
I'm going to point B. I'm going. Oh God! Here are the toilet toads.
Throw toilet paper at them.
So many toads and you're so aggressive.
They're so violent, Greg.
And the capture logo is our logo.
Oh, sick.
And I'm down.
All right, I captured B. I captured B. I'm going to A. I'm going to A. Oh! Oh my God! They're so aggressive, Greg.
Oh, I got killed. I got killed at B. All right, so the teams are me, Andy, that Jeremy Long, and top player hater against nanobiologist Tobbs, Game Over Greggy, and Mr. Big Fists.
I'll play a hater.
Capture C. I'm getting these toads are every. Well, some of them have guns.
A pretty advanced civilization, I must say.
Apparently, yeah.
And yeah, that was Planet of the Toilet Toads, the video game that I made in Core for the Kind of Funny / Core collab back in, I want to say 2020. Once again, all the years and months of the pandemic have melded together. It's very hard to perceive time. I, for a very long time, have had the idea of making Toilet Toad's Wild Pie here on twitch.tv/Kozibear Live, but the exact recipe that I was going to go with kind of eluded me for a while. Eventually, I was reminded of the fact that one time I visited the state of Pennsylvania in the United States, and in that particular state, a very kind of popular traditional pie is the Shoo-Fly pie. Now, the Shoo-Fly pie does not have any actual flies involved in it, but I figured, you know what? It has fly in its title. Frogs are often prone to eating flies. How about we base our Toilet Toad Wild Pie off of the Shoo-Fly pie? And so that's what we're going to be doing today. I have a number of recipes here from the New York Times that we are going to be using to help create our pie. And in addition to that, we're also going to be making a little bit of chocolate buttercream frosting for some of the decoration that's going to go on the pie towards the end of our baking session today. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The first thing that we need to do is we actually need to make the crust for our pie. I thought about making this ahead of time before the stream, but I figured, you know what? We have plenty of time today. Might as well just make it during the stream. So let's go ahead and do that. Worth pointing out, this recipe from the New York Times was written by Craig Claiborne and Pierre Franny. It says that this will yield a pastry for an 8 to 10 inch pie. This is the pie baking receptacle that we are going to be using. I'm actually not certain how large that is inch-wise, but I'm sure that will serve its purpose well. To make this, we need 1.5 cups of flour, 8 tablespoons of cold butter cut into 1/2-inch cubes, 1 tablespoon of sugar, and finally 2 to 3 tablespoons of ice water. Preparation number 1, put the flour, butter, and sugar into the container of a food processor. Start blending. Gradually add enough water so that the dough can be gathered into a fairly cohesive ball. If the food processor is not used, place the flour and sugar in a mixing bowl, add the butter and cut it in half with 2 knives or a pastry blender until the mixture looks like coarse cornmeal. Add the flour, stirring quickly with a fork. Gather the dough into a ball and flatten it into a round disc 1 inch thick. Wrap the dough in wax paper and chill for an hour or less. Originally, when I was conceiving doing this recipe today, I figured I would want to use just a normal bowl, but you know what? I'm thinking of maybe using the food processor. Here's the thing, we actually have a specific blade that we are supposed to use with our food processor when making dough, but I don't know where that blade may have gotten off to. If I can't find it within the next minute or so, we're just gonna do it by hand, but it would be quite convenient if we could find that particular dough blade that I'm referring to. Basically, I'm just gonna bring this up real quick. We would use this particular kind of food processing receptacle, but we would use a version of this blade that is entirely made out of plastic as opposed to plastic and metal. Speaking of which, this blade is kind of dirty, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put that in the sink to be cleaned later on. Probably should be looked into a little bit more. It's possible, you know what? I think it's possible that actually that blade might have ended up in one of the bags over here by the stove. Let me just look through these real quick, because I seem to recall seeing it around here. Here we go. I was concerned that we were going to be spending a long time looking for it. We did not have to. Here is the pastry dough mechanism that we were going to be using with this. Thank God we found it that quickly. Okay. That has been found, which means that it is time for us to begin to mix our ingredients together. We'll start off by adding in our flour and our sugar, seeing as how we don't need to do anything with the preparation of those. Let's bring the counter cam in. Okay. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to start off by just using the single cup measuring cup. Nope, I think I measured a little bit too much. Give me a sec. All right, that's about a cup. In we go. And we need an additional half. I think I got it in one go. Let me just, no, I think I can add just a touch more. Oh, they're playing music from Shovel Knight now. That's pretty cool. All right, we got all of our flour in here. Let's measure out our sugar next. I'm just gonna temporarily put this over here to the side. 1 tablespoon of sugar is what we need. Can add just a skosh more. There we go. I think this is actually all we need to use of this particular type of sugar for today's meal, but I'll hold on to it for now just in case. Okay, now we have the 8 tablespoons of cold butter cut into 1/2-inch cubes. For those curious, 8 tablespoons of butter is equal to 1.5 cups, or half a cup. So let's go ahead and grab our butter out of the fridge. I already went ahead and cut up our butter ahead of time, so what you're looking at right here in this particular cubic quantity is indeed the 8 tablespoons or half a cup that we are currently looking for. Okay. We need to find a good knife. I think this knife will probably do the job. All right. So we need to be very particular about making sure that all the butter that we're going to be putting inside our food processor over here amounts to basically half an inch in terms of their cubic sizes that we're going to be cutting them into. I'm just going to, hold on a sec, I'm just going to move a couple of things out of the way so that when we're ready to bring the base for the food processor in, we don't have to move a whole lot of things out of the way. Okay. We need to move fast here because the butter will melt very quickly if we don't move fast enough, or if we, expose it to the elements too much. I'm trying to be very particular in terms of the way that I am touching it with my fingers right now, because even just the slightest bit of exposure to my fingies will also result in it going to melty land. Okay. Seems like things got just a skosh messed up here. Okay. Right now they look a little bit blocky, but they're all technically cut into smaller pieces, and their smallishness will become more exposed as they're blended in the food processor. I'm just going to temporarily move the cutting board out of the way, seeing as how we don't really have any need for it at the moment. I'm going to bring the food processor base in like such, and plug it in without issue. Just check something real quick. Okay, looks good. Looks good. Okay. Sorry, I have to rely on my phone to check all my recipes today. Once we have our butter, our sugar, and our flour in our food processor and ready to go. Why is it not... It's odd. Why is it not fitting in? Give me a second. I got this. There we go. There we go. Okay. Put the flour, butter, and sugar into the container of a food processor and start blending. Gradually add enough water so that the dough can be gathered into a fairly cohesive ball. So we've not talked yet about the ice water. We need to use 2 to 3 tablespoons about it. I already have a bottle right over here that has been resting in the freezer for quite some time. It has gotten quite frosty. I'm just gonna dip my finger in here. Oh yeah, we're dealing with some real frosty water, so I'm just going to keep it out here, and I will dig my tablespoon into it and add it via this nice little opening hole over here on top of the food processor as needed, so that the dough will become the nice cohesive ball that we need it to become. All right. Let's see. Plugged in. Not turning on. Give me a second. I think it has something to do with the... There we go. So there are multiple different blending options on the food processor. Right now, I have just number 1 selected, which is literally called the dough option. I'm just gonna... Let me just open this up real quick and see what it looks like after a few seconds. Okay. I'm gonna continue processing it, and we'll begin to gradually add in our tablespoons as we go. That's number 1. That is number 2. Just gonna give it another second or so. It looks a little bit more cohesive from my perspective, but I'm just gonna turn it off for a second and look inside, see what we're dealing with. I think we can definitely add another tablespoon to this thing. I always feel like when I'm making these doughs that you need to add a little bit more water than what it usually recommends. I mean, it says itself, gradually add enough water so that the dough can be gathered into a fairly cohesive ball. They understand that we're probably gonna have to add like 3 or more tablespoons. Let's see what this thing looks like. Okay. See, I don't have any like visual reference for what I should be looking for in terms of the cohesiveness of the particular dough that I'm making. I feel like I'm definitely getting somewhere. I feel like, you don't want to overdo it, but I'm beginning to wonder if maybe I should indeed add 1 more tablespoon. I'm just gonna root around in here with a knife real quick just to make sure that, yeah, it seems like everything is being kind of pretty well processed. There aren't any parts that have not like really been processed yet that would dramatically change the cohesiveness and structure of the dough that we're in the process of making. Pretty good looking otherwise, though. Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna add a final half of a tablespoon. We'll do that. Okay, I think that was the magic bullet, or rather the holy water that we needed in order to get our dough to how we need to get it to. So we're going to open this up right here and right now, and as you can see, our dough has dramatically changed in terms of its overall kind of constitution. You know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the cover over here by the sink, because I think this will be a better location for it to be at. Okay. You know what? Just to prevent any sort of accidental sticking, I'm just going to very, very lightly flour the countertop in front of us over here, just very mildly. And I am going to kind of do my best to gather all the dough that we got in this thing into a nice little ball. Well, it seems like there's a little bit of flour that got stuck on the underside of the dough spinner. Not a big deal though, it wasn't a lot of flour. Okay. I'd say I'm really impressed with how this came out. I've tried making like dough in the food processor like this in the past, and I feel like the results have always kind of varied quite a bit. This came out really good. I'm just gonna quickly assemble all the used parts of the food processor. Yeah, I'm really impressed with how this dough came out. Like I said, I've tried making dough in the food processor like this in the past, and it's always, the results have varied, to say the least. Hello, Cotiero. My favorite game review script writer. Thank you for gamers videos. Thank you. It's, I gotta say, it's been quite some time since I've checked in on what's happening in the world of gamers. I've not really even checked out a lot of their recent videos, to be totally honest, but I'm glad that you're enjoying them. I think the last video that I wrote for the channel that like was released was the Duke Nukem video, which I think came out like sometime early last year. First time catch you live, and I have to go to sleep now. Hello from Russia. Hello. Hope that, you know, things that are going on right now in that side of the world will be, you know, resolved as amicably as they can be. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that you enjoyed my work on gamers. Okay, I think we more or less got what we needed to make out of this particular dough ball. It says that we need to flatten it into a round 1 inch thick disc, and then we want to wrap the dough in wax paper and chill for an hour or less. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to wrap it in some plastic wrap. We do have wax paper on hand, but this will just be a little bit easier. And we are gonna schlep this thing in here. Give me just a quick second. I need to make a little bit of space. There we go. Some things are sliding over. Give me a quick second. There we go. I think that's about as good as we're gonna get it. Whew. That worked out really well. I was concerned that doing this on stream was gonna be real challenging, but that worked out especially well. Cotiero says, I'm in Cyprus right now. A lot of game dev here. Ooh. Cyprus and like Greece in general sounds like a real cool place to visit. Gotta love ice water. At the, sorry, give me a quick second. A little bit coffee. Met the Stalker 2 dev team yesterday. Unfortunately, didn't think of anything smart to ask them, but you know, they're in Cyprus. It's 22:33 here. Man, I would love to swim in the sea right now. I'm not like a huge swimmer myself, but I am kind of done with how cold and how long this winter has been here in Montreal, in Canada. And I would just love the ability to just like jump into the sea and be able to have a good time, you know, no strings attached. Whew. Stalker, you're probably wondering if I'm interested myself in Stalker 2. I do actually really want to give that game a shot when it comes out, because I don't know if they've already announced it. I'd imagine that will probably be free with Game Pass, and I do have access to Game Pass, so I definitely want to give it a shot. I do want to go back to some of the older Stalker games first, though, and give those a look-see first, though, just so I can kind of compare and contrast. All right. So that is done. Now, the recipe says that we want to chill the dough for about an hour, which is fine by me, and we'll probably spend about an hour preparing the other stuff for what we are making today, so it all works out. It's 6 degrees Celsius outside here. Cypriots are freaking out. GSC Game World is from Kiev. You're right, I was mistaken. My apologies. I got confused there for a second. What was I... Hold on a second. Give me a second. Yep, sorry, I got things confused. You'll have to excuse me. It's been quite some time since I worked on my gamer scripts and whatnots, and unfortunately, I am not as up to date on where everyone lies and all that stuff. I should be, though. That's on me. That's not me being like, oh, things are complicated. That's me being like, I am not as up to date on the identities of certain developers as I should be. So Soccer 2 is at hold, and it will be very anti-war when it comes out. If I will meet them again, you have any ideas of what to ask them? They're evacuated. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like an obvious question to kind of ask them right now, but like, you know, if the current kind of geopolitical situation has, influenced, some of their decision making on the game. I know that like, the game is like still like fairly close to release, all things considered, despite being on hold. So I realize that like not a whole lot can change, but just sort of if that has like affected their line of thinking, or if they're gonna like further change some things that, we're already kind of going in a certain kind of direction. And sorry, I came to your Christian stream with Ukraine topics. Not a problem. I mean, this is traditionally not like a very politics heavy stream because I'm here to kind of like cook and make delicious and weird food, but it's okay every now and then to get a little bit real. It's totally fine by me. Okay. Let's see here. Somebody decided to text me with a scam. Not to worry though, I won't click on it. Okay, we prepared our pie crust, which means that now it's time for us to make the pie filling. We need to make our pie filling 1.5 cups of flour. Yes, our actual filling will contain plenty of flour itself. Half a cup of dark brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of nutmeg. We need 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a pound or 1 stick of cold unsalted butter, which is equivalent to half of a cup as well, just like the amount that we used for our crust. 3/4 of a cup of molasses, which I have in the fridge at the moment, 3/4 of a cup of boiling water, 1/2 a teaspoon of baking soda, and of course our single pie pastry crust, which we already prepared. I found this channel by Googling your name and finding your Twitter a year ago, possibly. Can I ask you, where's your surname from? I was always very curious. My last name, Kazina, is Slovene in origin. My grandparents on my father's side are from Slovenia. They had to evacuate at the end of the Second World War and came here to Canada after many a misadventure. Let's see here. So first off, we have to heat our oven to 350 degrees. I'm probably going to heat it to about 365 degrees on convection bake. And then we need to make our crumb topping. Mix together our flour, sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt together in a bowl. Cut in the butter with a pastry cutter until the consistency resembles cornmeal. Combine the molasses, water, and baking soda and pour into the pastry shell. Spoon the crumb mixture evenly over the top. Bake 15 minutes, lower the heat to 350 degrees and bake for 20 minutes longer or until set and firm. Okay. I'm trying to figure out here. What we want to go ahead and what we want to do first. Because I'm thinking, like, it's clear that we have to both prepare the like molasses layer of the pie and also the like cornmealy, like butter flavored layer of the pie both at once, because both of them are kind of temperature dependent and we can't let one kind of stall for too long. Let's go ahead. Let's start by mixing together our dry ingredients together first. Now, here's the deal. The way that this is going to work, is, unfortunately, I don't have a pastry cutter on hand. Pastry cutter, very important when you're trying to cut butter into some kind of mixture in such a way so that it's sort of cohesively mixed into the whole. So what I'm going to try today is a technique that I have not tried before in the past, but that I have read about online and that I do want to make an attempt at today. And it is, I'm going to be taking a bell grater, like what we have right over here, and I'm going to be grating some butter through the bell grater into our dough mixture. And the butter in question is currently being chilled in the freezer so that it'll be much easier to grate in this fashion. That's the current plan. We'll see if it works out. Let's go ahead and let's measure out our dry ingredients. First things first, we got our 1.5 cups of flour. So it's a very floury pie altogether, like 3 cups of flour in this thing, quite a bit to go around. Okay. I'm wondering, you know what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna prepare this part of the pie first, and then I'm gonna put it in the fridge just so that it can remain relatively chilled while we work on the other part of the pie, the part that involves the boiling water. Give me a quick second. There we go. That's the other 1.5 cups of flour that we needed. Indeed, we don't need this kind of sugar anymore, right? We only need our brown sugar. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna actually put that away in the cupboard just so that we can make a little bit more space over here for us to work with. I remember that I have a pot that was resting over there in that corner that you can't see with the camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put this on the stove so that we can have that ready for when we're ready to boil some water. Okay, let's see. 1/2 cup of dark brown sugar is next. This brown sugar here is not specifically dark in terms of its coloration, like compared to some like other really dark variations of brown sugar that you could get your hands on, but it'll still do the job. It's getting a little bit more on the firm side, but that's okay. Oh, shit. All right, there we go. There we go. 1/2 cup. All right. Hoping that I won't have to remeasure. I'm hoping that this is about the amount of sugar that we need. It almost feels like it's a little bit... Yeah, you know what? I think that's fine. Oh, whoops. Should have been a little bit more careful when I put it in there. Cotiero says, okay, thank you for your job. I have to wake up tomorrow, so I gotta leave. I'm very glad I can watch cooking streams. Only an hour ago, I had to check with my grandmother positions of front lines to check if her 99-year-old mother is in harm's way. Well, wishing for the best for you and your family. Hopefully, all of you will be able to remain safe and sound over the course of the difficult times that we are currently inside of and have ahead of us. I have a few more cooking streams currently being prepared for the rest of the year. The next 4 Sundays until April 10th will all feature cooking streams of this nature. And of course, you can catch my streams after the fact as VODs on this channel. So if you want to watch more of my cooking content, by all means, you can do so then and there. Okay, sugar, cinnamon, and nutmeg and salt. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, perfect. This all seemed so normal only 20 days ago, like, hey, this giant Pompeii volcano is looming over us. Yeah, it's a very kind of like sad, but I guess apt comparison. There we go. We got our cinnamon here. I feel like those people who lived for many years before Pompeii volcano. Okay, Sundays, got it. All right. Thanks once again for tuning in. All right. We got our nutmeg. We are at the very end of this particular shaker of nutmeg. I'm hoping that we can get a new quantity of nutmeg for some point in the future. Actually, we need to use half a teaspoon of the stuff in here. I think that will basically be it. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to quickly do this over the sink so that I don't accidentally spill more nutmeg into the pie I'm making than I need to. There we go. There we go. That's nutmeg. Nabadaz says, why is this kitchen so clean? It's so clean because, let me tell you, I went on a Herculean cleaning spree before I started this stream. I always do a pretty big cleaning streak before I start any of my streams here in my kitchen, to be honest. I want to make sure that people know that I'm a nice, tidy little boy. It's actually, like, no joke, it's actually like pretty satisfying and cathartic to do a nice big cleanse of your kitchen. It's obviously strenuous and you wish that it remained in a clean state naturally ahead of time, but it's not that bad, honestly. Thank you for tuning in, by the way. Thank you oh so much. I'm currently in the process of making Toilet Toad's Wild Pie, which is a riff on Shoo-Fly pie, inspired by Toilet Toads, which were created by the YouTube entertainment channel Kinda Funny. Right now in this bowl, I'm mixing together the crumb topping that goes on top of the Shoo-Fly pie. I'm currently mixing together all the dry ingredients, the sugar, the nutmeg, the cinnamon, and the salt and the flour. And once all of this stuff is a relatively kind of cohesive mixture, I am going to grab some frozen butter that I currently have in my freezer, and I am going to begin shredding that in here so that we can make the stuff that is currently in front of us resemble a kind of coarse, kind of cornmeal-like texture, and then that stuff will go on top of the pie when we're ready to schlep that bad boy into the oven. Okay. Right now, what I'm trying to do right now is there are a lot of little pockets where the brown sugar is still a little bit lumpy. So I'm just trying to like lumpify it, if that's the term for it. Cotero says, cleaning is so hard and takes so much time. It was the most unrealistic part of Death Stranding for me. Like, what do you mean? He can instantly reshuffle all the bags on his bags. No one likes to do dishes at Cotero, let alone clean, lol. What dark sorcery is this? Like I said, I'm not saying that I love cleaning in the kitchen. I'm just saying that it can feel cathartic to finally, you know, make order of your kitchen after it not having a lot of order for a very long time. I'll put it that way. I do agree, though, that it was kind of bullshit that in Death Stranding, Sam was able to rearrange his bag so easily. Obviously, as the player, I appreciated that. I appreciate that they kind of gamified that aspect of the game instead of making it this, like, needlessly, you know, confusing and cumbersome thing like so much of the gameplay was. But, yeah. Okay, I think I did. There are still some lumps of brown sugar in there, but I think I more or less did as good of a job as I could. So one thing I didn't really mention here is I'm actually, in addition to grating the butter in here, I'm also going to be adding a little bit of green food coloring. Now I need to be very careful because obviously a little bit of green food coloring can go a long way. All what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to make it so that the crumble on top of the froggy creation that we're making today has a distinctively green coloration to it. But we need to be careful because these like little crumbles on top of it are meant to be relatively dry, not wet. Let me just wash my hands real quick. Okay. Hey, it's not a problem, Cotiero. My chat isn't always the most active thing in the world, so any company, so long as it's, you know, totally respectful and within the bounds of what the chat should be, is a-okay. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grate the butter into the thing first, and then I'll add the green food coloring at the end. Okay. This is my first time attempting this, like I said earlier, so please bear with me if things start to go a little bit out of hand. All right, let's bring the counter cam in so we can get a better view of the action. Okay, this is not going as poorly as I thought it was going to go. I'm actually getting a lot of the grated butter in there. It's not quite like grating cheese, for example. It's not quite as smooth of a process, but it's actually really surprisingly working. Surprisingly. I'm trying not to, the problem is that I'm trying not to grip the butter too tightly because if I grip it too tightly, it will begin to melt. We don't want that to happen. To make sure that the butter is nice and cohesive as we're getting it in here, grating it all up. There we go. Just a one last tiny little piece of frozen butter and we will be done with this. Oh, I need to be careful because we're getting quite close to the blades of the grater. All right, there we go. Wow, look at that. Look at that. This worked out unbelievably well. I am so impressed. So impressed. Check that out. Whenever I need to, like, incorporate small little pieces of butter into my recipes in the future, I'm always going to rely on this technique. Now, the only problem is that a lot of the butter is sticking to the inside of the bell grater. I think I'm going to need to use a knife here. All right, I think that's more or less all of it. There's still some butter clinging to the inside of the bell grater here and there, but not much to be done about it. I'm just gonna wash my hands real quick while I'm here. Sorry. Sometimes the foot pedal by the sink can be a little bit on the finicky side. Hold on a second. I need to use a little bit warmer water if I want to melt the butter off of my hands. Cold water wasn't really doing it, you know? Okay. If you have a personal logo, you can print a clothes patch with it from Chinese by AliExpress. That's an idea. I think I want to focus on building the channel out a little bit more before I get into promoting my merchandise, but it's definitely something I've thought about. Maybe by season 4 of Kozibear's Cooking, I'll do that. Okay. Now, I'm just gonna add a couple of drops. There we go. And if we need to make it a little bit more green, we shall do so as we go. Hold on a second. There's a little piece of brown sugar over there that was a little bit too big and lumpy. Same here, these pieces of brown sugar, too big and lumpy. I'll break them up as I go. I think I need to add a little bit more green food coloring to this thing. Putting it on the top of my hat because the top of your hat gets on camera. That's a clever idea. That's a clever little bit of thinking I didn't really think of. That actually could work out pretty well. Good idea. Good idea. Seems like I thought that it would be relatively easy to turn this stuff green looking. Ultimately, it's not the end of the world if I can't make it green, but it would really kind of sell the idea of this being Toilet Toad's Wild Pie. But you know what I can do? I can always make the inside of the pie green so that when people cut into it, they're like, oh shit, this stuff is real green on its inside. I'm just gonna take a second. There's still a few small little patches of brown sugar inside here that are just a little bit on the side of being a little bit too big, and I'm just gonna scrunch them up. Okay. Just going to spend another minute or so doing this just to make sure that we have it nice and as cohesive a mixture as we possibly can get. And then we will schlep this stuff in the fridge for the time being while we work on the actual filling of the pie. This is why sometimes you might want to use like a sifter when you're trying to mix your sugar into your flour. Okay. I think that's more or less about as good as we're going to get it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to schlep this thing in the fridge as well, and we will keep it in there while we work on our pie filling. Let me just bring in the sink yet again. Give my hands a nice quick little rinse, and there we go. Okay, that part is taken care of, which means that it is time for us to begin working on the filling. Let's bring up our phone real quick. Let's see here. Combine the molasses, water, and baking soda and pour into our pastry shell. Spoon the crumb mixture evenly over the top. Okay. It says that we need 3/4 of a cup of boiling water. So you know what we're going to do? We have ourselves our measuring cup over here. I'm going to fill it up with a full cup of water after I just rinse out some of the flour. And then I will measure from that a 3/4 of a cup when we are ready to do so. Let me just pour this into our saucepan over here, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that on the highest temperature that it will allow for. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I need to find like a nice bowl that I can use to mix together our molasses and whatnot, but that's also like not overly big. Whoops. I forgot to mention this at the start of the stream. The hinges on this particular drawer are very sensitive right now, and so I need to be very careful when opening and closing it. I opened it a little bit too rapidly there, and I apologize. I should not have done so. But I need to find myself like a small bowl. I guess I can use this. This will probably work for the best. Oops, I did not mean to bang it so loudly. That was not my intention. All right. While the water is heating up over here, I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on our oven so that we can get it ready to go for when we're ready to put our pie in. The instructions say that we want to heat it up to 350 degrees, so I'm going to heat it up to, no wait, not 350 degrees, 450 degrees. Big distinction. I'm going to heat it up to 400, no, hold on. I'm going to heat it up to 465 on convection bake. There we go. That'll work out better for us. Okay. Let's grab our phone yet again. Man, these things so crucial and so essential to the baking process. All right. Let's go ahead and let's grab our baking soda and our molasses from out of the fridge. No joke, I've had the molasses that I'm about to pull out of the fridge in the fridge since like, I want to say the start of last year. I don't know what I used it for. Thankfully, this stuff lasts incredibly long. Its best before date is May 26th, 2022. So this stuff is still good. I tasted it myself like a few days ago. It still tasted good, so we're good in that account. Okay. Unfortunately, it's a little bit thick, but give it time. So yeah, we are trying to get a grand total of 3/4 of a cup of molasses out of this forsaken carton. I think we're definitely going to be able to get 3/4 of a cup out of this thing, but it's going to be very close. I think this will be the end of the carton as we know it, which my parents will be very happy with because my parents are all for me using up things that have been in our fridge and cupboard for far too long. So they'll be happy to know that our molasses carton will no longer be around keeping our fridge warm. Yeah. I don't think I mentioned this recently. I think I mentioned it, maybe did I mention it on Press YZ? Our fridge broke down this past week and it was quite the embarrassing time. I can hear the water begin to boil behind me. Let me just measure out all the molasses that we need out of this thing. Yeah, this is pretty much, that was the last little bit of molasses that we could have measured out of this thing. There we go. It's so hard to just get it to stop dripping. Here we go. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to briefly remove that from heat. I'm going to turn on the fan for a quick second there. I'll put it back on heat and make it boil when we're ready to pour it in here. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get our molasses in this particular bowl. Let me go ahead and let me bring the counter view in. There we go. Unfortunately, I'm beginning to realize that it might be a little bit difficult to apply a green coloration to this thing when you consider just how crazy dark it is, but maybe the water will make it a little bit lighter. We shall see. We shall see. Gotta say, it was a little bit easier to kind of scrape the molasses out of this measuring cup than I was anticipating it would be. Okay, I think that's more or less about as much molasses as we could get out of that. All right, let's go ahead, just to make my life easier, I'm just gonna put the baking soda in here first. I believe that we have to put in a ½ teaspoon. Indeed, we have to put in a ½ of a teaspoon. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna measure that out and toss it in there. Toot sweet. There we go. Right now, it will be a little bit difficult to mix it into the molasses, but once we get the boiling water in there, it won't be difficult at all. Shit, I did not mean to accidentally move the pot over in such a way that the water would actually go onto the burner itself. There we go. I'm just gonna get it boiling again for effect, and then we will measure out our 3/4 of a cup of water that we need from it there. This is the cap that the molasses was previously on. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna schlep that in the garbage. Okay, while we're waiting for that to heat up, I guess I can move a couple things out of here. I realize right now, the brown sugar, probably don't need that anymore. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna wrap that one up real quick and schlep that back into the cupboard from whence it came. There we go. All right, and it is at boiling point again, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remove that from heat. I'm gonna turn off the fan, and I am going to schlep the 3/4 of a cup into this measuring cup. Some already spilled in, so I'm gonna say that that's the 3/4 of a cup that we need. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put this back on one of the burners over here. And yep, it basically just says from here that we gotta combine this stuff, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do exactly that. Really got to make sure that we kind of dig into every single kind of corner of this particular food creation so that we can really melt and incorporate all of the molasses into this freak of nature that is upon us. Let me just, this is leaving a little bit more of a stain underneath it than I was hoping it would. I'm going to make a little bit of space over here because I'm going to roll out the pie dough in just a second, so that we can finally put it in our pie crust, because I want the water, molasses, and baking soda mixture that we have in front of us to be relatively warm still before we put it in. I think more or less that's more or less mostly incorporated. Okay, I'm gonna try to put a little bit of green food coloring into it, but I don't think, given just how dark of a mixture it is, I don't think this is gonna do much, but I'll at least be able to say that I tried. Okay, well that was a couple of drops of green food coloring. Didn't really do a whole lot, so that's gonna be that. Okay, let's move that over there. We're gonna do our best to not dawdle for too long. Okay, I think that's probably acceptable with regards to the amount of flour that we're using. I wish that the surface in front of us was maybe a little bit cleaner, because there are little specks and spots here and there where you can see a little bit of like cinnamon and whatnot, but c'est la vie. Right now, the oven is at 262 degrees, so we still have to wait a little bit longer. I probably could have like waited a little bit, to be honest, to bring our molasses mixture together, but you know, I don't want to waste too much time either. Just need to make sure that this stuff remains easy to pour and incorporate, even if it cools down just ever so much. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's grab our pie dough. This stuff feels pretty firm, which is sort of the reason why we wanted to put it in the fridge in the first place earlier. Let's go ahead and let's grab our rolling pin. There are a few cracks here and there on it, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that they don't define the crust that I'm about to roll out. Let's see here real quick. How thin is the crust supposed to be? Rolled flat and placed in a 9-inch pie plate. Rolled flat, that's all it says, so I guess we'll just use our judgment. I'm a little bit annoyed by how many cracks there are at the edges of this pie dough, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Okay. Well, playing another track from Crypt of the Necrodancer. Gotta love that. Come on. This is tough. All right, let's just try putting this into the pie mold and then we'll figure things out from there. Hold on a second. I've got a tool that can help out with this. Damn it, this is breaking apart so hard. I don't know why. Did I not add enough water? I got half of it in there. I'm gonna try to do my best to kind of scrimp it in. Well, there's probably a small bit of this dough that I might have to re-refrigerate after this that I'm not going to be able to use. All right. It's not exactly how I wanted to do this, but we're getting it in there, and that's what matters. Okay, just a little bit more dough that we need to apply here. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to just really kind of go inside the pie, and I'm going to kind of do my best to kind of make sure everything is properly crimped together. You don't have too much overhang. Okay, I think we more or less got everything that we need done there. I'm going to just very quickly gather up all of the remaining dough that is currently on the kitchen counter, and we're going to put that into a nice little wrap of plastic and schlep it back into the fridge. Just gonna really kind of like scrunch it tight so it's as cohesive as can possibly be. And then we're going to grab some more plastic wrap and wrap it tight. Didn't know that this thing was at the end of its life. At least we got to use this up. All right, there we go. And this is going in the fridge once again. Okay, I'm just gonna take a very quick second to kind of wipe up some of the excess flour that's currently on the counter. Okay, seems like there's a spot here where for whatever reason the flour isn't really coming off as easily, but I'll be able to work on that later. All right, wash my hands real quick. Okay. Seems like this mixture is still pretty liquidy, which is exactly how we wanted it. All right. Just doing some final little bit of patting on the interior of the pie. Temperature is currently at 379 degrees. Let's see here. So the idea is that we bake it at 15 minutes at 445 degrees. And then we lower the heat to 350 degrees and we bake it for 20 minutes longer or until the interior of it is set and firm. That's the idea. Let's see. Just don't want to wait too long before I have to put it into the oven. Let's grab the butter stuff. There we go. I think it was the right decision to put this stuff in the fridge because it is still nice and firm and not at all melted, which is what we wanted. Just grab another quick little splash of water for my hands. How hot is the molasses mixture, actually? Not that bad, not that bad. Okay, let's see. Oh, I was just gonna say, when it hits 400 degrees Fahrenheit, I would begin to assemble the pie. It just hit 401 degrees Fahrenheit, so let's go ahead and let's do so. gonna scrape as much of the molasses mixture as I can into this thing. I think that's good though. Okay. With that in there, all that we got left to do is we've got to sprinkle our butter mixture evenly over the top. That's what the instructions call for us to do. So I'm going to try to be very careful. The idea is that we're not incorporating the two, we're just sprinkling this stuff over the top, like such. Trying to be careful but fast. This is my first time making Shoo-Fly pie, or at least a variation of it. So I'm hoping that everything here turns out a-okay. All right, just a few more handfuls and we'll have dropped all of the topping onto this deer pie. Again, trying to be as even in our distribution of the pie topping as we can be. So beautiful looking, isn't it? All right. I think that's about as good of a job as we're going to be able to do with this quick little hand wash. Oh, I don't know if you heard that, but that little chime was coming from the oven. That means that it is time for us to put this bad boy into it. Give me just a quick second. Well, it seems like some fell on the side of this thing. Let me just incorporate that into the pie real quick. There we go. All right. Let's go see. Where are we going to put this thing in here? Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in the oven camera. And we're going to schlep this thing right in. All right. Perfect. Went off without a hitch. All right. It says we need to bake for 15 minutes first. So, Echo. Set a timer for 15 minutes.
15 minutes, starting now.
All right, well, with that taken care of, let's give ourselves a quick little breather. Let's go ahead and let's do today's Snacks and Collation segment. Hello everybody, my name is Alexander Kazina, and today I am back with another installment of Snacks and Collation. the weekly segment here on twitch.tv/Kozibear Live, in which I taste all manner of delectable and unusual international snacks for your viewing pleasure. Today, we have one of the smaller snacks that we've tasted in terms of the sheer size of its packaging. This is a snack from a French company called Brossard, called Le Brookie. Obviously, this is a combination of brownie and cookie, hence it being called Le Brookie. Its actual name is Le Brookie Pocket. So specifically, they're calling out the fact that this is a version of the Brookie that you can just have in your pocket, ready to go at a moment's notice. So yeah, this apparently is new, hence the nouveau tag in the corner of the box. Indeed, it says cookies plus I guess noisette, brownie noisette. So specifically, it's calling out the fact that it's a combination of chocolate chip cookies and nut brownies. Noisette means nut. The other side of its packaging, oh, that's interesting. So let me just bring the zoom in again. So like you look at this side of the cookie packaging and it views like a kind of landscape version of the Brookie box, but then you flip over to the other side and we got a portrait version of the exact same packaging. That's pretty novel. Apparently this has no palm oil and indeed was fabricated in France. I like how, I've never seen this before, but there's a little like, let me bring the super zoom in again. There's like a little like nutritional score for the like quality of the food that you're getting out of it. And this one scores a D. Now, I'm ready to eat any food that scores a D, but I suppose that I should only do so in moderation. All right, what kind of ingredients we got in here? Farine de blé, so wheat, sugar, dark chocolate, cocoa butter, vanilla, eggs, huile de colza, that means oil of colza. I don't know what the hell that is. There's nuts. A lot of other stuff like that. All right, let's go ahead and let's open up the packaging. Now, I suspect from our past experience that this is probably not going to be very big. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that this is going to be like in 4 like individually wrapped little thingamabobs. They're all wrapped in a single big plastic bag, which I feel is like a little bit unnecessary. So yeah, each of these individual little things is actually quite small. I thought this was going to be like a single large giant Brookie. Clearly that's not the case. Let's go ahead, let's bring the super zoom in once again. Okay, well look at that, I gotta say, first impression, it looks pretty good and it actually feels right. Like the brownie part kind of feels like a brownie and the cookie part kind of feels like a cookie. It kind of feels very like, you know, hard and crunchy. Brownie part feels very soft and moist. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's check the Brookie out. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I am impressed. I am impressed with just how surprisingly good the Brookie was at actually nailing what it's going for. It said, hey, this is going to be a combination of a brownie and a cookie. And both the brownie part and the cookie part of this particular snack dessert actually taste like that. The brownie part, very soft and moist. The cookie part, a lot kind of firmer and harder and crunchier, but not to the point of it just being like a hard, stale cookie. I don't know what sorcery they applied in the creation of this, but somehow they nailed it. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna try the cookie part and the brownie part separately. I'm gonna try the cookie part first. This cookie is kick-ass. Like even by itself, I would totally just eat the cookie. This is a good, like pre-packaged soft, but not too soft cookie. Now I'm gonna try out the brownie. Brownie's pretty good too. Not as favorite as the cookie. I think that it could use a little bit more fudginess. I think that I'm also not the biggest fan of there being nuts inside of it. Personally, I've never been a nut guy when it comes to cookies. I've never been a nut guy when it comes to cookies. I've also never been a nut guy when it comes to brownies. I think that if you're gonna put extra matter inside your brownies, put some white chocolate chunks inside there, or just, you know, some normal dark chocolate chunks. I prefer white chocolate chunks because I feel like it makes for a better contrast with the actual coloration of the brownie itself. I'm just gonna have a quick little sip of water so I can kind of help cleanse my mouth before I dig into my next brookie. Okay, take two. Let's see if number 2 manages to hold up as good as number 1. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm on the verge of doing something here I have never done before on this channel. Something I have never done before. I'm gonna take one more bite, I'm gonna finish this thing off, and then I'm gonna render my verdict. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in the history of Kozibear's cooking, I am giving one of my snacks and collation snacks a 10 out of 10. The brookie totally blew me away. I was so utterly astounded and impressed by what this little French-made, D-ranked snack was able to bring to my palate. As I said, I didn't love the fact that there were nuts inside the brownie portion of the brookie. A 10 out of 10 doesn't mean that the snack in question is perfect. But what I was so impressed by was how it totally lived up to the promise of what it was going to be, and how the process of eating both the brownie and the cookie together washed away any tiny little issues that I might have had with either part of it. Both of them combined in my mouth to just transform into a perfect Madonna of sugary, D-level goodness, and I am so looking forward to digging into the rest of these, but I have to save some for later because your boy can't be piggish when he's already in the process of making a sugar pie. All right, and that's it for snacks and collation. Whew, I gotta be honest, hold on a sec. Unfortunately, I ran out of ice water in here. Here we go. I'm just gonna pour myself some more water, because if I don't wash the taste of the brookie out of my mouth, I might not enjoy anything else today. I'm beginning to smell the pie. And let me tell you, it smells good. It smells good. Okay. That is taken care of. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be decorating the pie with. Originally, as I said, the plan was basically to color the crumbles on top of the pie to resemble green rather than beige or brown. Just to give a quick little visual reference, probably should have brought this in sooner, but you know, sometimes you tend to forget. This right over here on the left side of the screen is what Shoo-Fly pie is supposed to look like. I was hoping that the crumble part on the top would be green. Alas, we were not able to get it to look green, but that is okay because we have a lot of other things that we can put on top to really espouse toilet toadiness. Number one are these little gummy frogs that I bought from Amazon.ca. These come courtesy of the candy brand Lady Sarah. I think in total these cost like $2. I got like 4 of these packages and I have 2 right here. Just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pop a couple of these in my mouth real quick. Give them a taste. Ingredients: sugars, Glucose syrup, sugar, grape juice concentrate, water, gelatin, citric acid, pectin, artificial flavor, coconut oil, carnauba wax, tartrazine, brilliant blue FCF. Brilliant blue FCF, that's weird. Don't really taste like much, and certainly they don't taste like frogs, but these will be going on top of our pie creation all the same. We don't need any more things that we need to be... Oh, no, wait, hold on a second. We do, actually. I was just about to say we don't need to measure any more things out. We actually do, but you know what? Instead of using this measuring cup, which is big, I have another small 1-cup measuring cup that we're going to use instead. So I'm going to just bring that out here and swap out the big measuring cup with that. Okay. Next thing we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be making some chocolate buttercream frosting. That chocolate buttercream frosting is going to make a bunch of little poops that we're going to put on top of the pie. Hence why I have some icing sugar and some cocoa powder right over here out on the counter and ready to go. And finally, last but not least, I got myself some white fondant. This white fondant is going to be flattened out and made into the shape of toilet paper, which is going to, of course, again, further sell home the toilet toady nature of what we're making. I'm going to go ahead. I really want to make the counter as clean as we possibly can get it for this next part. So especially when we're rolling out the white fondant, it's not influenced by anything else on top of the counter. So let's go ahead. I'm going to wet this real quick. And we're going to wipe down the counter to the best of our ability. Let me just put the iPhone out of harm's way. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm having a little bit of a tough time getting some of the grimier parts out of the counter. I'm just going to use a sponge real quick. Okay, I think that's more or less it. I'm just going to grab one more paper towel so that we can dry it down. Echo, how much time is left on the timer?
You have 1 minute and 20 seconds left on your 15-minute timer.
Okay, that means that in 1 minute and 20 seconds, we are going to lower our temperature to 350 degrees and continue to cook our Shoo-Fly pie from that temperature. Let me see here. The thing is that we actually need to use a little bit of not cornmeal, but cornstarch when we're rolling out our fondant. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of that so we can have that at the ready. You know what? I got to go to the bathroom real quick. Give me just 1 second. I am back, and the timer just went off, so let me just wash my hands real quick. Echo, turn off the timer. To compensate for the fact that it's currently resting in the oven a little bit longer than it should be right now at this temperature, I'll set the second timer to like 18 minutes instead of 20 minutes. Okay. Convection bake, 365 degrees. Nope, 355 degrees. There we go. Echo, set a timer for 18 minutes.
18 minutes, starting now.
Okay, that is good. You know what? Let's go ahead and let's create our chocolate buttercream frosting. Now, here's the thing. We're not going to be making a lot of buttercream frosting because all in all, there's only so much that we're going to be able to put on the sheer surface of this pie. The original recipe calls for us to use 1 cup of unsalted butter, 3 cups of confectioner's sugar, half a cup of unsweetened natural cocoa powder, 3 to 4 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, which I currently have in our fridge, and 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, as well as 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to be using 1/4 of all of that. So, let's see here. With a handheld mixer or stand mixer, which I have right here, beat the butter on high speed for about 3 minutes until creamy and lightened in color, scraping down the bowl as needed. Add confectioner's sugar, cocoa powder, the heavy cream, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and salt. Beat on low speed until the sugar is incorporated, then increase to medium-high speed and beat for 3 minutes, scraping down the bowl several times to ensure everything is well blended. Add another tablespoon of heavy cream if needed to thin out the frosting. Let's go ahead and let's move the counter view in. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's bring our butter out first. I have a couple of small pieces of butter in this butter holder over here. I don't know how much I'm going to need to amount to. What is it? 1/4 of a cup. We'll put it in this measuring cup that we have over here, and we'll melt it down just a little bit, not enough to the point that it's like completely a liquid, but enough that to the point that it's a little bit more pliable and easy to work with. And then we'll determine how much more we need to add. I'm just going to go ahead off the bat. Let me see. Here we go. I'm just going to use this knife here to just add a little bit more butter from this thing over here. Hold on a second. The wrapper that this butter is currently inside of is making it a little bit more difficult to cut up the butter than I was anticipating, so I'm just going to remove it. Okay. To me, what I currently have in my measuring cup over here looks like it would be about 1/4 of a cup, but I suspect it will be slightly under. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in the microwave for 12 seconds. Fooled you. I actually put it in for 13 seconds. Okay, let's see. Well, seems like our pie is getting nice and browned. That's real cool. All right, let's get our butter out. Let's see where we're at. Again, this did not really melt anything. It just made it a little bit more pliable and easy to work with. let's add a little bit more butter in here, just so that we can like make it a really nice rounded 1/4 of a cup. Okay, I think just one final little sliver from this. I think we'll more or less have what we need. Okay. And that is our 1/4 of a cup of butter. Let's just wash our hands real quick. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put a hot plate next to the stove over here so we can put the Shoo-Fly pie on it when it is ready to come out of the oven. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's lighten up our butter. The instructions say that we need to beat the butter on high speed for about 3 minutes until it is creamy and lightened in color. Let's go ahead and let's do it. Because it's a small amount of butter, I suspect we probably won't need to like beat it for as long. If there was more butter here, we'd probably need to beat it a little bit longer. Okay. I think that's more or less all we need. Hold on. Okay. Well, that's all the butter that we needed in there. Let's see. I guess now all that we got to do is we got to mix in the other ingredients. Now here's the thing, I'd like to reuse this measuring cup. This measuring cup is a little bit on the dirty side, so we're going to switch back over to the sink camera and we're going to just clean it up real quick. Okay. There we go. We got it nice and cleaned and dried. Let's go ahead and let's mix in the other ingredients. All right. First up, recipe normally calls for 3 cups of confectioner's sugar, but in our case, we're only going to need 3/4 of a cup because you divide 3 cups into 2, you get 1.5 cups. You divide 1.5 cups into 2, and you got 3/4 of a cup, or 75% of a cup, as it were. That looks about 3/4 of a cup. Yeah. This is a little bit tough. I want to situate it in such a way where the butter won't end up on the ground or whatever. Okay, got our sugar in there. What's next? It says normally we have to do 1/2 of a cup of unsweetened natural cocoa powder. Guess we're going to do 1/8 of a cup. Let's grab ourselves a small spoon. I'm going to check up on the Shoo-Fly pie. Oh, looks like it's coming along nicely. Let's see, 8 minutes left on the timer. Let's see. I think we're just a little bit shy of an eighth of a cup. Okay, I think that's an eighth of a cup. There we go. Oh, there's a lot stuck at the bottom of this thing for whatever reason. Not sure why. Whoa! Abby Normal is raiding with a party of 9. Oh dear, my stream is being taken over by Abby. Well, thank you all the same for the raid. Hopefully the Abby takeover won't last until the entirety of the end of this channel, because I still want to claim some exclusivity rights over the Toilet Toad Wild Pie that I'm in the process of making right now. Hope that everybody that just joined the stream is having a good time. I'm in the process of making, as I stated just a moment ago, Toilet Toad's Wild Pie, which is basically a variation on Shoo-Fly pie, the kind of Dutch Amish, Pennsylvania-based kind of traditional pie from the United States, albeit with a little bit of a froggy twist. Hey, Abby Normal, thank you for the follow. I think I'll need to think about leaving the pie for you. Need to speak to my lawyers. Very much appreciate it. For giving me the follow, you get 1 wheel spin from the prize wheel of causality. Let's go ahead and let's do that right now, and let's see what it lands on. Oh dear, it has been quite some time since we last spun the prize wheel, and it so happened to land on durian candy. That means that I have to indulge in quotation marks, in one of my least favorite foods. Yes, it is a durian candy. I've had these things before. It's not utterly terrible because at the end of the day, it is still candy, it is still sweet, but man, sometimes you gotta do what the prize wheel asks of you. All right, into the hatch we go. Whew. Not good. All right, and now I will do my best to suckle on the candy while I finish up what I was doing here. We're right now in the process of making some chocolate buttercream frosting that will go on top of the pie. We already spun up some butter. We poured some confectioner sugar and unsweetened cocoa powder in here. Hello, Kiopi, thank you for the follow. I'm gonna put one more ingredient into the bowl and then I will spin the prize wheel again. Very much appreciated. Let's see here. Let's see, okay. Next we gotta mix in half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. In our case, this is artificial vanilla extract, but it'll do the job in this case. Oh man, Kitten_Jin, thank you for the follow. Hold on, I need to add this to my wheel spin counter. I need to make sure that I get all the wheel spins taken care of that I need to get taken care of. All right, let's pour that in there. Very good. Okay. Man, just a moment ago, I bit into my durian candy just so that I could kind of get through the durian candy faster, and that unlocked a waft of awful flavor. Oh man. Real vanilla extract is too expensive, so I feel you. Yeah, I tried looking into getting real vanilla extract a little while ago, and it was just a little too pricey. Okay, let's go ahead and let's spin the prize wheel yet again. I should mention that there is a hard limit of only 2 durian candies per stream. Any more than that, and I will have to respin the wheel again. All that being said, I hope that it doesn't land on durian candy twice in a row. Oh, that was really close. Really freaking close. Instead, the wheel landed on Animals Are Dumb. Hello, Kiopi says, I love durian. but I grew up eating it, so it's funny to see other people experience it. Like I said, the candy wasn't the worst thing in the world, but, you know, wish I could be doing anything else right now. Okay, it landed on animals are dumb, which means that for 2 minutes, I gotta talk about a random animal. Now, normally the way this works is I'll ask my Alexa to name a random animal, and I'll go from there. But if anybody in the chat has an idea for a random animal that you want me to talk smack about for 2 minutes, I'm open to any suggestions, so let me know. I'm gonna grab the heavy cream out of the fridge for when I'm done with this particular segment. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to ask Alexa to name a random animal. Echo, name a random animal.
Here's an animal, a cingulata.
A cingulata. Okay, so if you've never seen a cingulata before, I looked at my Echo screen. It kind of looks like one of those animals that has like a big, like large cover on it. It's not exactly like a pangolin, but it's, I mean, I guess kind of similar-ish. Whatever. All right. Echo, set a timer for 2 minutes.
Second timer, 2 minutes, starting now.
Ladies and
Do you
gentlemen,
want to name this timer?
Echo, fuck you. I don't want to name it anything. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alexander Kazina, and my fucking Echo Dot just wasted a total of 10 seconds asking me if I wanted to name this 2-minute timer something else in which I am going to be talking smack about the cingulata. Now, I want to tell you right off the bat, you don't know how the hell this animal's name is spelled. You would think cingulata, is it like S-I-N-G-U-L-A-T-A? No. It's not spelled that way at all. The way it's actually spelled is, you know what? I'm not even going to tell you. That's how little this animal is deserving of your time, of our time, of the minute and 50 seconds of time that we are spending talking smack about it right here and right now on the channel. Even though, you know, to be honest, I kind of wish I had those additional 10 seconds back so that I could talk for an additional 10 seconds about why this animal really sucks. So here's the thing. And thank you, by the way, green_square_gaming for the follow. I'll be sure to spin your wheel in just a second. Sometimes you look at an animal that lives inside of its own house and you kind of got to respect it. You kind of got to respect how something like the turtle, for example, you know, has everything that it needs on its back at any moment. If ever it senses danger, it can just retreat into its shell and there you go. But I look at this kind of thing and I'm like, I mean, if you're going to make your own house that you live of every second of your life entirely on your back, you could make it look a little bit more appealing. You look at a turtle shell and it's nice and it's smooth and has these intricate ornate designs. This thing looks like a piece of shit. It looks like a piece of shit. It looks like if you made a delicious, scrumptious brookie at some artisanal pastry he located here in Montreal, but then he messed it up halfway through and then it fell on the floor and then he sold it at discounted price in the discount bin. It just, the cingulata, you are not the definition of a good animal. And I want you to know that. Echo, turn off the timer. All right, and that was that. Echo, turn off the timer. For some reason it didn't hear me the first time around. Echo, how much time is left on the timer? This timer being the timer for the pie.
There are no timers set.
Oh shit. It would seem as if the baking time for our Shoo-Fly pie has reached its end. Let me just bring in the oven cam real quick. I'm going to check on the Shoo-Fly pie, see if it is fully set in the center, and then I am going to do my next wheel spin. So just give me a quick second to do my thing. Not going to lie, looks really good. Seems like it could be. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it another 2 minutes. Echo, set a timer for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now.
All right. Let's go ahead and let's do our next wheel spin. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, Bionicle book time. This is where I read from a Bionicle book. Specifically, Bionicle Chronicles 1, The Tale of the Toa, the first book in the Bionicle Chronicles series from when the Bionicle universe first started back in the early 2000s. I want to make sure that we take out the pie from the oven when we're supposed to, so I'm just going to put the book over to the side here just for the moment, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to check real quick. We need to still put in a tiny little pinch of salt, so I'm just going to do that real quick. After I put the tiny pinch of salt in, we'll wait for the oven to reach the amount of time that we needed it to wait for, and then I will read from the Bionicle book. All right, there is the salt that we needed. And you know what? While we're here, we don't need the vanilla extract anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that back in the cupboard where it is normally stored. Keep things nice and orderly here in the kitchen. Also, we don't need any more of this icing sugar anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap this bad boy up and put it back in its own cupboard as well. I think that our 2-minute timer is just about done. Let me grab oven mitts real quick. Omega Vengeance says, right, I grew up on Bionicle. Well, you're gonna enjoy this next segment. Echo, turn off the timer. Okay, I'm gonna turn the oven off so that it's no longer emitting any heat. Whew. Thank you, Omega Vengeance, for the follow. Looks like I have quite a few wheel spins that I have to get to after this. Okay. Looks pretty set. Didn't jiggle around too much. I think that we are good to go. I will say, let me just give me a quick little second to reset the camera view. The pie, for whatever reason, got a little bit lopsided during the bake, and I'm not entirely certain why. Let me just bring it over here so that you guys can have a better look at the action. Hold on a second. Counter view in. It's a little bit tough to see from the counter view, but like this part of the pie definitely grew out a little bit more than this side of the pie. I'm sure it'll still be pretty good, but it's just a little bit weird. Okay. I'm gonna put it over here and leave it to cool down a little bit more. Let's get right back over here and let's read a little bit from Bionicle Chronicles #1. Thank you, Abby Normal. Here we go. Where we last left off the Toa had managed to group and find themselves for the first time. We're not entirely certain where on the island of Matanui they currently are at the moment. I believe that they might be around Kininui, which is like the part at the center of the island that actually serves as an access way to Makuta's lair. It's not entirely certain though. All right. Let me just, hold on, I'm just gonna turn back a page just so that it's a little bit more natural when we pick up. Pohatu nodded. She's right, he said. Trust me, these Rahi creatures are nothing to face alone. But if we travel together, they should give us little trouble. Right, Kopaka? Kopaka shrugged, doing his best to chill the impatience he felt in listening to this conversation. Why hadn't he already departed? I can't agree, Toa of Stone. We should split up. As I already told you, I prefer to work alone. Pohatu looked slightly hurt. You may prefer it, he said. But would you also prefer being chased by that sharp-horned beast if I hadn't been there to help you trap it? Enough of this bickering, Tahu broke in impatiently. We will accomplish nothing by standing here and having a debate. The decision is made. We split into small groups. It's the best of both worlds. Can't you see that? All I see is one who believes that power belongs to whoever shouts the loudest, Kopaka thought in disgust. Well, I, for one, am not ready to bow to such a quote-unquote leader. Not as long as I have life in my body. Tahu noticed Kopaka's stare. What thoughts lay behind his mask? The Ice Toa's silence and intense gaze made Tahu uneasy, though he didn't like to admit it, even to himself. Sorry, got a little burpy there. I think it was durian candy. Ugh. It doesn't matter, Tahu told himself, pushing such feelings aside. There are more important things to worry about. The others were about to go back to arguing, several of them speaking at once. Crack! Suddenly, with no warning, the very earth yawned open in front of them, splitting the clearing in half. All around, the earth shuddered and trembled, smaller cracks opening here and there as the trees shook and birds took off into the air in a panic of cries. Jagged streaks of white-hot lightning streaked across the sky, striking down only a few lengths from where the Toa stood. Get back! Onua shouted as the air cracked with electricity and several trees and shrubs burst into flame. Tahu leaped away with the others, though the fire held no terror for him. What had happened? A huge bank of dark clouds rolled in above them, releasing a torrent of rain and hail. Normally I only read a couple of pages from the Bionicle book, but we're right at the end of chapter 7, so I'm going to finish it up. A violent gust of wind howled down from farther up the mountain. What kind of crazy storm is this? Liwa yelled over the noise of the pounding rain and shrieking wind. I dropped my bookmark. An earthquake, thunder, and lightning, rain and hail and wind all at once? Gally shook her head, shielding her face against the driving wind. This can be no regular storm, she cried. It must be the work of Makuta. As the word left her mouth, the storm suddenly stopped. The earth lay still. The only hint of the storm was the smoldering remains of the lightning-scorched foliage and the huge, gaping fissure in the ground. Eerie, Pohatu remarked. Tahu nodded grimly. Clearly, Makuta knows we're here. There's no time to lose. We need to find those masks. Now. And that's that for Chapter 7 of Bionicle Chronicles number 1. If the wheel should land on another Bionicle book time spot, we'll get to see what happens in Chapter 8. But for now, we are going to retire this segment and get back to cooking a little bit. I got 2 more wheel spins I need to take care of because 2 of you subscribed to me. Sorry, not subscribed, followed me just a little bit ago. Before I do that, though, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mix up our buttercream frosting a little bit. I have to buy those books. The cliffhanger to the next chapter, those books, like, I stand by that the Bionicle Chronicles books were really freaking good. To this very day, I still think they are, they're basic, but they're really, really solid children's literature. By all means, check them out if you have not done so already. Okay. So next up, we got 3 to 4 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. That's normally the amount that we got to mix in, but actually we only need 1/4 of that, so only about 1 tablespoon. Let's go ahead, let's grab our measuring spoons. Here we go. I don't remember what was the last thing I used the 1 tablespoon measuring spoon for, but doesn't matter. Doesn't seem like the measuring spoon is particularly dirty. Let's go ahead, let's bring the counter view in. There we go. And there we go. All right, and now without further ado, I am going to just scrape this last little bit of butter back in here, and we are going to go ahead and beat this thing up. It says that we want to beat on low until the sugar is incorporated, then increase to medium-high speed and beat for 3 minutes, scraping down the bowl several times to ensure everything is well blended. Add another tablespoon of heavy cream if needed to thin the frosting. All right. I'm gonna increase the speed of the mixer a little bit. Now, because we're not dealing with a very large quantity of ingredients here, we're only doing a fourth of what the buttercream normally calls for. Probably won't need to spend as much time mixing it up. It already looks like it's more or less done. Just give me a minute. I am just going to use the scraper from earlier to just scrape some stuff deeper in here. You know what I'm thinking? It feels pretty firm. And I'm wondering if maybe I should get it just a little bit thinner. Just a skosh thinner. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to add just a tiny touch more cream to this. Just as much as you see over there that I dropped inside the bowl. And hold on a sec. I need to scrape all this buttercream off of the spatula. It's real tough, especially when you're dealing with a lot of sticky stuffs in the kitchen. There we go. All right. Okay, that looks pretty much about what we want it to be. I'm just gonna increase the speed of the hand mixer so that all of the buttercream that's currently on the blades will end up inside the bowl. And we won't have to scrape it off of the blades all that much. All right. Looks pretty good. We can always add a little bit more cream later on if we feel like we want to thin it a little bit more. Okay. I tell you, this pie that we have resting over there, it is going to be good stuff. Before we get around to that, let's go ahead and let's spin our prize wheel. We still got 2 more wheel spins that we got to do. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, look at that, Bionicle book time. You got your wish. We are going to be reading some more from Bionicle Chronicles #1, The Tale of the Toa. Let me bring in our special segment content for that real quick. Whew. Chapter 8, What Lies Beneath. Tahu hadn't had a destination in mind when he stomped off from the group of Toa. He was too angry to think straight. No matter how often he had repeated his plan to split into pairs, the other Toa had refused to agree with it. Kopaka and Liwa had insisted on taking off on their own. Even Gali had seemed too distracted to argue the point. She was the only one among them who hadn't visited her village, and she was eager to find it now. And so, the Toa had all gone their separate ways. Tahu's anger drove him aimlessly over the foothills around the base of Mount Ihu, then into the fiery slopes of the volcano. Kopaka found one of the masks up there in the snow of his own homeland, Tahu thought, as he headed up the fiery mountain. Why shouldn't I start my search here in my own home region? Thinking about Kopaka made him clench his fist tighter on the handle of his fire sword. That sentence right here, I said earlier that I really love these books. There are a couple of segments in the books where the wording is a little bit weird. Let me try it again. Thinking about Kopaka made him clench his fist tighter on the handle of his fire sword. It's like he just sits back and listens to us talk, thinking he's better than us, Tahu thought with a snort, like it's not worth his time to get involved. It's not worth my time to worry about the likes of him, he said out loud. Especially now. He swung his sword to punctuate the thought, accidentally sending a finger of flame shooting out and melting a nearby pile of stones into lava. With all due respect, Great Toa, you might want to watch where you point that thing, a voice said nearby. Tahu whirled around. Tahu whirled around. What? Ah, damn it! I said it wrong the first time. I thought I would be able to correct it on the second go around. I did not. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry that I'm besmirching the noble name of Bionicle Chronicles 1, Tale of the Toa in this way. With all due respect, Great Toa, you might want to watch where you point that thing, a voice said nearby. Tahu whirled around. Standing before him was the broad-shouldered, sturdy-looking figure of a Ta Matoran. I know you, the Tahu said. I know you, the Toa said. Jesus, what is going on? Abby Normal in the chat says, you're just distracted by how wonderful the story is. You're so engrossed. I mean, 100%. I'll gladly take that excuse over me just not knowing how to read. I know you, the Toa said. It's Jala, right? The Matoran nodded and bowed. I am the captain of the guard of your village of Takoro. Hello again, Tahu said. And while we're giving out advice, you might not want to sneak up on a Toa. It could be hazardous to your health. Sorry, Toa, Jala said with a grin. I didn't mean to startle you. Apology accepted. But what was your intention in tracking me here? Jala's expression turned serious. I came to see how your search for the masks was going. Don't take this the wrong way, but do you have any kind of plan for finding them? Tahu frowned, feeling his fiery temper rising. That was a bit of a tongue twister there. You can, again, excuse me for not getting that on the first go. How dare this lowly Matoran question his tactics? Of course I have a plan, he snapped. I'm searching for the masks. Okay, perhaps I don't have an exact plan as such, but I'm working on it. Jala bowed again. Of course, Toa, he said. In any case, I thought it might be helpful for you to know that legend has it that a Kanoi Akaku, a great mask of X-ray vision, lies within the deepest cavern of Anu Wahi. And that's all for Bionicle Chronicles number 1, unless the wheel should land on it yet again. Let me just grab my bookmark real quick. There we go. Okay. Omega Vengeance says, reading it out loud is a craft that takes practice. I'm really bad at it, so no worries at all. Thank you so much. Speaking of which, Omega Vengeance, you followed me just a bit earlier, so now we gotta spin the wheel to commemorate you following me. Let's see where it lands this time. And let's go. Oh, Pokemon card time. This is where, surprise, surprise, we get to open up some delicious, beautiful, scrumptious Pokemon card packs live on stream and see what we got. Typically, the way that this works, so that we're not just going through dozens and dozens of Pokemon card packs per stream, is that we open up 4 cards every time that the wheel should land on that spot. So let me just bring up the specific camera view that we want to open up. So the card pack that we're going to be opening up today is a Pokemon Sword and Shield Battle Styles booster pack. As we can see, there is a delightful Empoleon illustration on the cover of this booster pack. We're going to open up the cardboard and reveal the booster pack underneath. Oh, look at that. It's, I believe this is the Rapid Style Urshifu. I believe that's the name of the Pokemon. I did catch him within the expansion for Pokemon Sword and Shield, but it's been a little bit of a minute, so I'm not as familiar with some of their names as perhaps I should be. Let me just open up this pack real quickly and carefully. Okay. So first things first, we have the Pokemon trading card game online. Unlocks 10 additional cards to play and compete with online. We got that card over there. All right. Let's start from the top. What's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? It is a trainer card, Rapid Strike Style Mustard. Mustard is, of course, the trainer that teaches you within the Isle of Armor DLC, in which you encounter Urshifu for the first time, which I suppose is only appropriate. All right, hold on. I'm going to put the rest of the cards down over here on the counter so I can hold this one up with both hands. All right, let's go. Number 2. What's it gonna be? Oh, it is another trainer card. It is Bruno. Shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 4 cards. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, draw 7 cards instead. Because of the order in which we started drawing some of the cards, we're getting a few more trainer cards than I would have liked, so I'll go ahead and I'll draw an additional card. So this card and 2 more cards will follow. What's it gonna be? Is it gonna be a Pokemon this time? It is! It's our first Pokemon, and lo and behold, it's Gliscor. Of course, Gliscor is the evolved form of that Pokemon that they introduced in Gen 2. There are like 900 of these guys, so you'll have to forgive me for not immediately knowing it off the hand. Gligar, that's right. Gliscor, always a Pokemon that I've been a fan of. I liked how they went back to the drawing board with Gligar and were like, hey, how can we, introduce something new for this Pokemon that hasn't been done before? All right, card number 4. Let's see what we got. Oh, it is an electric energy card. You know what? I'm not super pleased with us starting this off with 2 trainer cards and an electric energy card. I'm just going to go ahead because this is the last wheel spin we've had in a while, and I'm going to open up every single other card in this card pack just for you guys because I want this to be the best card opening that it could possibly be. Let's see what card number 5 has to offer. Oh, look at that. It is, of course, our good friend Jellicent. I was a little bit confused by what Pokemon it was because the illustration looked real weird. The Jellicents are all like weirdly squished and whatnot. Jellicent, of course, the ghost water type Pokemon that was introduced in Gen 5. It was sort of the, what's the term? Like the surrogate for that generation's Tentacruel, because there were a lot of Pokemon that were introduced in that generation that were meant to be like surrogates of Pokemon from Gen 1. All right, let's see what card number 6 has to offer. Let's see who it's gonna be. Oh, look at that. It is a Gen 4 Pokemon, another evolved form of a Gen 2 Pokemon that was introduced in Gen 4. It's Honchkrow. Of course, this is the dark flying Pokemon that is evolved from Murkrow. It also, it seems like it's very lightly holographic, but it's very light. All right, a few more cards left. What's it gonna be? Oh, lo and behold, it is Mineshaw. This is, of course, the cat-like fighting Pokemon that was introduced in Gen 5. He's introduced pretty late into the Pokédex in that game, but I've always been kind of fond of him. Him and his evolved form are pretty cool. Oh, hold on a second. I made a deathly mistake that you'll have to forgive me on. This is Minefu. His evolved form is Mineshaw. This is Minefu. Please forgive me. That was a egregious mistake that I promise I won't make any more in the future. Again, though, there are 900 Pokemon, so you have to forgive me on this. All right, here we go. Card number 8, I think. Cherubi. Oh, okay. This is a Gen 4 grass-type Pokemon. Not a whole lot to say about this Pokemon. Let's see here. The deeper a Cherubi's red, the more nutrients it has stockpiled in its body, and the sweeter and tastier its small ball. Didn't need that piece of information. All right, 3 cards left. What's it gonna be? Oh, look at that. It's another Gen 4 Pokemon. This is a very Gen 4 Pokemon deck. This is Pachirisu, the Pikachu relative that was introduced in Generation 4. A pair may be seen rubbing their cheek pouches together in an effort to share stored electricity. Pachirisu is pretty cool. I know that he had a brief stint a couple of years back where he was very big in the competitive Pokemon scene. Okay, I may have accidentally looked at the underside of what this Pokemon card is, but trust me, I'll try to make it seem like a surprise all the same. Who's it going to be? I couldn't have possibly seen him ahead of time. It is Spearow, of course, the classic Gen 1 flying-type Pokemon that I think most people often tend to forget about because, of course, Pidgey and his evolutionary line are way more popular. Due to its short wings, it can't fly long distances, it wanders around restlessly and pecks at bug Pokemon. All right, last card of the bunch. Let's finish strong. What's it gonna be? Uh-oh, I don't think this is gonna finish strong, but let's see what it is all the same. Oh, look at that. It is Remoraid. Of course, the Water-type Gen 2 Pokemon that evolves into Octillery. Using its dorsal fin as a suction pad, it clings to a Mantine's underside to scavenge for leftovers. I actually really like this illustration, and what I like about this illustration is that you can actually see an Octillery doing the same thing in the background. All right, that was a pretty good collection of cards that we just unpacked over there. But it's time for us to move on to the remainder of the stream. We gotta assemble Toilet Toad's Wild Pie. We gotta make it the Toilet Toadiest pie that this world has ever seen. So let's get right to that. Let's see here. Okay, pie is still pretty hot, although it's not so hot that we can't like bring it over. I think the first thing I want to do is, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move the hand mixer out of the way. I'm going to put it over here. And I'm going to just grab a slightly wet paper towel real quick. I'm going to wet it up. I'm just going to very quickly wipe down the counter over here, just so that we can clean up any detritus that might have accidentally ended up on it. Like such. Okay. And now, wait a minute, hold on a sec. I just remembered, we're gonna need to use our rolling pin for this part. And our rolling pin is still covered with a little bit of flour and dough from when we made our pie crust earlier. So let me just wipe that stuff down real quick, just so that is clean. D3 Explicit, hi, do you speak French? I actually do speak a little bit more French than you would think. I live in Montreal, which is a bilingual French and English city, but to be honest, I only know as much French as is necessary to kind of get by on a day-to-day basis. I didn't pursue like higher French education after college. So I do speak some French, but I don't speak French like fluidly. Omega Vengeance says, that was actually one of the best card openings I've seen. You are also very knowledgeable with your Pokemon. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I'm glad that you enjoyed that. That little trick you saw there where I brought down the top view camera to show a kind of wider view of the action of me unpackaging some of those cards was something I thought of not too long ago. I'm glad it worked out well. All right, we just put some cornstarch over on our counter because we are going to be opening up this small little package of white fondant and spreading it out thin so that we can make little toilet paper shapes on the pie that we are going to be decorating in just a minute. Let me just put the wrapping over here. There we go. Let me move this back over here. Let's bring the counter view down. There we go. All right, now real simple, we're just gonna begin spreading out our fondant as thinly as we can, all the while making sure that it doesn't stick to the counter or that nothing weird gets stuck to it. There's like a little hair that got stuck to it a moment ago, for example. All right. It's not a lot of fondant that we need to roll out here, so at a certain point, we'll know when we've more or less rolled out everything that we can. Okay, I think that's more or less about as good as we're going to be able to do. Let's go ahead, let's just move the buttercream frosting over there. Let's move some things out of the way over here. Let me grab some oven mitts real quick, and we are going to move our pie right over here so that we can begin to decorate this bad boy. There we go. Okay, now this is where things get a little bit tricky. What we got to do is we got to start cutting the dough into square shapes. And what I'm thinking is I might want to actually use this particular cooking instrument, but I do have my pizza cutter in case I need to use that as well. Okay. Now I gotta, just very carefully, I'm gonna make a couple of cuts here so we have ourselves a nice long strip of fondant that's more or less sort of even in terms of its length and width. And now, because we gotta make ourselves a nice little toilet paper shape, we are going to roll this bad boy. And I'm gonna try to be very careful that we roll this bad boy in a uniform shape so it doesn't look like super lopsided. Okay, here's the thing. It's not quite as fat of a toilet paper shape as I think I might have been hoping it would be, but it does sort of get the job done. Okay. Let's see, if I put this over here, there we go. Now the only thing is that the pie is still quite warm, so it is probably gonna like slightly, ever so slightly melt the fondant a little bit, but it probably should still be okay. Okay, that is taken care of, which means that next we got to start cutting some of the individual pieces of toilet paper that our little froggy boys are going to be resting on top of. Okay. Now what I'm thinking is, if I wanted to be like extra precise and extra fancy, what I could do is I could make it so that the edges of these little pieces of fondant were like cut in the shape of like I would make it so that each individual piece of toilet paper that is going to go on top of the pie would have like little crimped edges. Like it would look like you kind of like tore a piece of toilet paper off of this large like little roll of toilet paper that we have at the center of the pie. But I think that might be a little bit too much. So I think that for now, I'm just going to kind of cut them into more or less uniformly shaped pieces like that. Their edges won't be kind of like serrated in that way, but at least they will be uniform. All right. Now I'm trying to think how I want pattern-wise the toilet papers to look like. I'm thinking, I need to take this off so I can use it for reference when cutting this piece. I'm thinking maybe I'll have like an outer layer and an inner layer on the pie. So I can have like maybe frogs on the outer layer and toilet poops on the inner layer. I'll have to figure it out as I go. Okay. See, my problem is that right now I feel like if somebody looks at the pie, I don't know that they're necessarily going to look at this and think, oh, these white strips of fondant over here are meant to be toilet paper. They almost look more like cheese than anything else, which is not the intention of what I'm going for. But I have an idea. I'm being very careful because I don't want to disrupt the shape of the pie. Like I'm thinking, what if I made it so that, like basically, like the toilet paper is coming out of the center in like a spiral shape. Like this. The problem is that I feel like I would want the fondant to be like a little bit more kind of like circular in terms of like its shape. And I feel like as it stands, this isn't like, it isn't like really circular enough. Gotta think carefully about this. Because I don't have so much fondant to go around. I don't have all the fondant in the world. Sorry that we've hit a little bit of a lull in the stream. I'm just trying to figure out how to kind of best go forward so I can kind of make the best version of this thing that we can possibly have. I mean, one thing I could do, like if I want to be like super adventurous, is I could use the like pizza cutter to like cut out like a spiral shape on this thing, like that. And I could put that on the pie. But that could be a little bit, that feels like it might be a little bit on the adventurous, like overly complicated side. Let's think about this. Another thing I could do is I just could cut a bunch new strips, and I could use those strips to like make more like rolls of toilet paper. And maybe I would make those toilet paper rolls like vertical as opposed to, no, I would make them horizontal as opposed to vertically oriented. I should have probably thought this out a little bit more ahead of time. This is not a difficult thing to figure out. Hold on a sec. I just want to make sure that I kind of am mixing up the buttercream frosting so that it's not getting set and hard while I'm thinking this through. Let's give it a shot. Let's actually, I'm going to try and see if I can make like a circular shaped thing using the fondant. And then we can always sort of fix it in post after. Okay, so we have this nice circular shape. Not perfectly, it's not perfectly kind of like circular, but it's all right, despite being a little bit oblong. I can maybe like adjust the shape a little bit in post like this. There we go. And now maybe I can use this piece over here like this. Now, very carefully, I'm going to try to cut it in such a way that it looks like a long roll of uniform toilet paper. Okay, now maybe what I can do is I can, now that I've got this spiral shape created, I can kind of like spread it out a little bit on the pie proper. What I can do is I can just temporarily remove this from the top of the pie, just put it down there, and then no, I don't think this is really working. I don't think this is really working. Let's put this thing back over here. Now, what about these pieces? Can I use this to do anything? Maybe because this one is like a little bit more kind of circular, I can like make little cuts here and there along it. And that will allow me to kind of go more for what I was originally aiming for. Okay, I think this is a fair compromise. I think what I'm doing right here and right now is probably for the best. All right. Now I'm trying to think though. So I managed to get the spiral shape down pat, but I'm wondering if I can maybe kind of scrunch it up a little bit more just so that I can make like more space for like a second spiral around it. Because it does look a little bit kind of lonely. Just having that one spiral like how it currently is. You know what? I think I need to actually make these pieces a little bit smaller. Sorry that this is taking a while, by the way. I had like an idea going in of what I wanted the overall pie to look like when I was done with it before the stream, but sometimes, you know, your ideas kind of take a life of your own while you're in the middle of making it, and you kind of got to adjust on the fly. There we go. There we go. This is how we're going to do it. Okay, currently 6:45. I suspect by 7 we'll probably be done. By the way, the current song that's playing in the background, pretty cool. Like that song quite a bit. Okay. There we go. All right. We are doing this. We are actually doing this, and it looks like it's going to be pretty good. Pretty good. Thank you to everybody once again for tuning into today's stream and sticking with me all this time. I know that we had a bit of downtime for a little bit while we figured out what we wanted the top of our pie to look like, but we finally managed to figure it out, and I'm very, very excited to see what the finished product will look like. Hold on a sec. I need to shorten this thing a little bit, make him smaller. All right. There we go. There we go. Okay. 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 I should probably create a piece that will go for this spot over here. Give me a second. There we go. Okay, we gotta continue the spiral. I can probably use some of this piece from earlier, actually. Thank you, Abby Normal. I really appreciate it. Thank you once again for the raid. If you don't mind me asking, how did you discover my channel? Was it just are you, what was it, like just sort of a random fluke? If you're somebody I know on Twitter and it just kind of completely slipped my mind that I do, please forgive me. No, this piece wasn't good. Okay. We're getting there, family. Family, that's the first time I've said that on this channel. Is it a good look for this channel? Let me know. I'm not opposed to it. It's not something I've typically said in the past. Probably should mix up the buttercream once again, just to make sure that it's not setting. I do cooking streams too, so I wanted to find someone who was having fun with cooking too, and I'm super glad I found you. Thank you so much. You cook, what kind of stuff do you cook on your channel? Are you just sort of the kind of cooking streamer that does sort of whatever fits your fancy? I'm the kind of cooking streamer where, starting with like season 3 of Kozibear's cooking, I really kind of tried to like hone in on very like specific and unusual recipes that I kind of came up with from scratch, you know, that are inspired by like pre-existing recipes, obviously, but also that like don't really resemble anything that you normally find in a cookbook. Second, I need to make some of these final few pieces a little bit smaller. Today was lasagna, and other times are those meal kit boxes. Normally on Sundays I do something called crime and garnishment, where I cook while telling a true crime story. That sounds really cool. I might check the streams out. As you know, I really love to read from Bionicle Chronicles while I do my own streams, so certainly wouldn't hurt to check out what you're doing, see how I can improve my own craft. Okay. Just a few more pieces here. Just got 1 or 2 more pieces that I can probably put in here at the end. There we go. There we go. Now that is a beautiful looking specimen. I love that you read that on stream. The wheel is such a good idea. Thank you. I was actually, the prize wheel was specifically something that was inspired by Kind of Funny, the YouTube and entertainment channel. They used it on a couple of their streams in the past, and I figured, why not incorporate it into some of my own streams? Now I'm just gonna very quickly, I don't wanna like change things up too much, but I do wanna see if maybe I can like slightly situate the placement of some of these things better. I'm not gonna try to like completely upend the tea table, to use an old Miyamoto quote. No, I think that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Okay, I'm gonna just quickly gather up as much of this fondant as I can. You know what? I might want to reuse this stuff, so I'm just gonna quickly, as best as I can, kind of bunch as much of it up as is possible. And I believe what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to cover it with some more cornstarch, and then after that you can put in like a plastic bag. I'm definitely gonna do my research though, just to make sure that I'm doing this correctly after the stream. Have you always been into cooking and or baking? The cooking and baking thing for me was something that was very much reignited over the course of the pandemic. I had been into like, you know, cooking and baking way in the past when I was a kid. And then what happened was the pandemic provided me with an outlet to kind of get back into cooking and baking. And come 2021, I was like, you know what? I'm having a lot of fun with this stuff. What if in 2021 I actually took some of my cooking and baking adventures onto some of my streams? And so I did that pretty much throughout the entirety of 2021 on a pretty consistent basis. And then in 2022, I decided I'm going to continue doing this, but this time around, I'm going to make every single recipe that I make a very like specifically kind of like matriculated process. It's going to be unusual food creations, the likes of which you won't normally catch when you're out and about walking around your city seeing what restaurants have to offer. And I'm also going to make it so that it's a very kind of limited run thing. Previously, when I did cooking and streaming in 2021, I made it so that I was like cooking every like Tuesday and Thursday, and in some cases even on the weekend as well, like 3 times a week. And partially because I got a new job towards the end of 2021, I decided that 2022 I would only do my cooking streams on Sundays on the weekend, and only for like 12 or so weeks as part of this current season that I'm doing the cooking as part of. Okay. We have our pie properly prepared. Let's go ahead and let's start putting some of our frogs on this bad boy. So I don't believe I introduced these to this crowd. I have a bunch of Lady Sarah gummy green frogs, which we're going to be placing on top of this lovely toilet paper covered pie. What I'm thinking is that I might want to maybe put like 1 frog on every other piece of toilet paper like such. I think that will probably make for the best balance. There we go. And then every other piece of toilet paper that I'm not putting frogs on will have a small little poopy dollop of chocolate buttercream frosting put on them, thus creating Toilet Toad's Wild Pie. It is really cute, isn't it? The little frog gummies look especially cute. Okay. All right, so now, last order of business, we have our buttercream frosting. We have to put as much of this frosting as we can into the frosting piping bag. And then we're gonna squirt this bad stuff onto the individual pieces of toilet paper into the best poop shapes that we can muster. This is not my first time using these piping bags, but this is my first time trying to pipe buttercream frosting like this into it. Previously, I used them to pipe some jam into some jelly donuts during one of my earlier streams this year. So we're gonna try our best. Okay. Uh-oh, hold on a second. The topmost part of the piping bag accidentally fell back a little bit. That's not good. There we go. All right. Now we're going to be very careful here. We need to make sure that we just leave a small little dollop on each piece of toilet paper. No more, no less. About the same size as the frogs, you know? Okay. I'm going to try to lean down to be a little bit more precise. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's having a little bit tricky for it to, it's sticking to the toilet paper and it won't let go. Hold on a second. I'm going to try to cut it loose with the scissors. Uh-oh. Now the scissors are stuck to it. Oh, there we go. Okay. Not exactly how I wanted it to go, but I suppose I did my best. Okay. Problem is that I think the buttercream frosting is a little bit too thick I probably, in retrospect, should have added a little bit more heavy cream to the mix. They do really look like stools, though, so they do have that going for them. I need to make them look a little bit more... What if I did them on the side, maybe that would be for the best. Unfortunately, I was kind of hopeful ahead of time that I could make them look almost like the poop emoji, but I don't think that's going to be possible. Now, what if I, just to make things easier on myself, I'm going to try and do it on the counter like that. There we go. Do you still think that the pie looks a little bit cute? I'm beginning to think that it's beginning to look a little bit on the disgusting side. Okay, I'm definitely getting the hang of it a little bit more. Again, I would have loved it if I could have made the poops look kind of like the poop emoji as opposed to just a little log of poop, but... All right. Disgusting are those pretend cat litter box cakes. Yeah, those don't... I've never seen that before, but those don't sound good. Okay. All right, 7:04. I think 7:15, let's be conservative, will probably be when we're done. You know what, I was a little bit upset earlier on that the chocolate smudges didn't all look uniform, but now I kind of appreciate the fact that they don't all look uniform. They kind of look like, you know, how you'd imagine chocolate poop would look like on top of pieces of toilet paper. Okay, I think this is the last piece that we'll be able to put this on. There we go. It got a little bit scraped, but that's okay. Okay, now this is pretty much done, but I'm wondering if maybe I might want to add a couple more details to it. Abby Normal says, they're eerily realistic and I hate it. What I'm thinking is, so I have two things in mind. I could put a frog on top of the toilet paper roll like that, but I feel like that will also obscure like what the top of the toilet paper looks like, which I feel is not really my intention. I could also, like, I have a lot of chocolate buttercream frosting left over, and I'm wondering if maybe I could, like, squirt it in some additional places. But also the point is that the chocolate buttercream frosting is on the pieces of toilet paper. One thing I could do is I could put a little bit over here on this piece of open toilet paper like that, so that there's a little bit there as well. What do you guys think? Do you think I should add a little bit more? Or do you think I should kind of leave it be? Because I have plenty of frogs and buttercream frosting to go all around. One thing I could do is I could like pipe some chocolate buttercream frosting around the very edge of the pie, like such. But I'm wondering if that's like necessary. That's the thing, is that you don't want it to like be like excessively detailed for the sake of being excessively detailed. You want it to be as detailed of a pie as you need it to be. I also have this idea that maybe I could pipe some buttercream frosting on top of the toads themselves so that they are covered in poop, but maybe that's a little bit unnecessary. I'm just trying to envision in my mind's eye, like if I pipe some chocolate around the edge over here. You know what? The only thing that I'm considering still doing is maybe just adding a little dollop of chocolate over here onto the interior flap of the toilet paper roll. You know what? I'm going to do that just because it is a pretty large spot where there isn't really anything on top of it. There we go. I think that was probably for the best. Let me just push it down a little bit. There we go. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, it is Toilet Toad's Wild Pie. This was quite the food creation, and let me tell you, I'm really looking forward to checking out how this thing tastes like. Abby Normal says, yeah, more chocolate always makes things better. Thank you very much. I will be posting more pictures of this particular food creation on Twitter, on Instagram, and I'll also probably post a video on TikTok as well. On all three of those platforms, you can find me at Alex Kozina. That's at ALEXKOZINA. Once again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to Abby Normal for rating and thankfully not taking over the stream. Instead, you were a very polite individual. You and everybody else who joined in on the raid were very polite individuals that listened to everything I had to say, watched everything that I did, and overall were a real great crowd. And I want to let you all know that I really appreciate it. Till next time, I want you to keep on cooking. Oh, and by the way, for context, I will be streaming next Sunday at 4 p.m. EST, as well as the 4 subsequent Sundays after that. Last stream of Kozibear's Cooking Season 3 for the beginning of 2022 will be April 10th. So every Sunday up until April 10th, you can look forward to a new stream here on twitch.tv/Kozibear Live at 4 p.m. EST. There's more information about this below the stream and all that. All right, till next time, I want you to keep on cooking.